Yes, I'm going to walk straight out into the roundabout. Oh yeah, feels liberating. Am I going to get hit down? No. So, a couple of things to talk about today really. The first, I'm afraid, is one of the ugliest topics. I mean literally the ugliest topic you could ever think of. And it's Tony Blair. I've also managed to squirrel out I guess some of the more subtle phrases in the repeal bill, which is quite enlightening, so we'll have a look at that as well. But yeah, I'm going to start off with, I'm afraid, rancid, ugly, horrible, evil Tony Blair. Just as usual, I'm going to have to read from my phone in a minute, so I'm going to have to find somewhere a little bit quiet, possibly, because God, man, this church is noisy. Let's first talk about Tony Blair, everyone's favourite human. In fact, a guy who just about everyone, well, I think just about everyone anyway, would probably agree that if there's a human on Earth who deserves to be liquefied and, I don't know, sprayed into space or something, it would be Tony Blair. I mean, most people would probably get into the idea of Tony Blair turning into an atomized particle cloud in outer space, which is why it always strikes me as very curious when suddenly Tony Blair pops up in the news multiple days in a row and he's giving, wizened advice about various things, and people are supposed to take him seriously and trust what he says and, think of him as an honourable statesman or something, though. Or one day have a statue of him, or maybe they'll dig up the tomb of the unknown warrior and bury Tony Blair so that heads of state can lay a wreath on such a glorious international figure. But Tony Blair is saying many, many things over the last few days. He's been talking about Jeremy Corbyn, and he says that possibly Jeremy Corbyn can be Prime Minister, will be Prime Minister, is okay if he's Prime Minister. He seems to have changed his tune on that very much. He still calls him basically a left-wing extremist, but he has changed his tune slightly. The main thing Tony Blair's banging on about is he's saying that Brexit does not need to happen, and in fact Brexit could be reversed. He says we have 2 years to try and stop it from happening. It's almost like somebody has set Tony Blair up to be like the leading figurehead of trying to reverse the Brexit decision. But if you ask me, and I'm sure I've said this before, I keep thinking I'm going to get run down. I'm sure I've said this before, but if you've got one of the most universally hated figures in the whole of British politics, still living that is, Margaret Thatcher, is it really intelligent if you're actually trying to stop Brexit to have him as the leading vocal figure trying to stop Brexit? If you agree with Tony Blair, say no to Brexit. It seems a bit strange, doesn't it? But Tony Blair, what the fuck are you going to do with him? You can't have him banished from the country because of a thing called freedom, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm just going to place this here, and then we'll go and find somewhere nice and quiet to talk about law. What Tony Blair is essentially trying to provide, or the core meme that he is trying to spread amongst the public mind, is that the damage to the economy that Brexit is already causing is harsh enough to actually cancel the entire thing and go back on the referendum result. But and it's just caused lots and lots of people have been trawling through Twitter posts and Facebook and all that kind of stuff talking about it. And although they don't really like Tony Blair, what they do actually agree is that, yeah, maybe he's right, that the damage that's being done, you can see the pound is dropping and prosperity is down or whatever. But these people got such a short memory. Before Brexit happened at all, the economy wasn't exactly good. In actual fact, do they not remember 2008? With the bailouts, one of the biggest financial crimes in human history took place, basically robbing from the public, giving it to the private sector. Do they not remember that? It's almost like they've got nostalgia for how things used to be before the referendum, as if things were amazingly great. But actually, the way that the financial system is set up, it's determined to never be actually great, because that's the point when they pop the bubble and they milk it in and they take all the money. And that's been happening for so long, it's insane. I mean, even if you look back to the Victorian era, I mean, the people who say things like that, they know nothing about the Victorian era, as in, you know, London was the richest city on earth, had the highest sort of opulent civilization on earth for a while, but it certainly wasn't like that for everybody. It was for the minority. At the time when this was the richest city on earth, it had some of the poorest and most horrible living conditions in the whole of the continent of Europe. And that's how the majority of the population were living in squalor, just like they were in the medieval period, when it was also the same situation, transferring the public worth into private hands. And so, wow, Tony Blair, good at meme spreading, muck spreading, but the factual accuracy of saying that things were so much better before we went to vote out of Europe or whatever, it's bollocks. The economy is never going to be good as long as the same people are still in charge of it. That is how it is designed to work, to milk the ordinary, honest, working public of all of the economies of scale and squirrel it away into private bank accounts offshore, and that's been happening for hundreds of years. So, meme your way around that, Tony Blair, liquidize the guy.